Riders, Eric Lange and Brad Horsley from Ride Adventures here. You know, between the two of us, there's quite a bit of motorcycle tour group guiding or leading experience. And we just thought we would kind of go through some do's and don'ts, things that you do and don't want to do if you are in the position of leading a group either in your hometown. Maybe you've got a local riding club. Maybe you're starting to guide professional motorcycle guided tours. Whatever the case be, there's just a few little do's and don'ts that we came up with that might help you along the way. So, Brad Horsley, the first one we wrote down was things to do to set the expectations up front about like, what is your role? If you're just the ride leader, are you also going to be paying the bills for lunch? Are you going to be setting the route?
Yeah. I mean, managing expectations is key so that, you give everybody a good understanding of how the day should unfold so that they know how many miles you're going to go. They know what to expect during those miles. And yeah, some things, depending on the size of your group, you're right. You may need to say, hey, everybody, we're a big group. We need to make reservations at this restaurant. It's going to be around this amount of money for your plate of food. Like, not all restaurants can handle all 12 of us walking in there. To get them up to speed on how the day is going to unfold and make sure that there's not any surprises as to like, okay, we got to the restaurant, we all wanted to eat together, but there's not even enough chairs in this restaurant for us to all sit down. So just do half of us eat and then half of us don't eat, or the ride, it's like, I didn't know I was going to spend 4 hours riding with no bathroom. You need to keep the group informed and manage what their expectation for the experience is going to be,
Yeah.
and that makes a big difference at the end of the day.
I was even thinking in terms of maybe you've chosen a route and GPS something out, but like making it clear whether you've even ridden that route before or not, or maybe parts of it that you haven't, like set the expectations, because
Sure.
I don't know, sometimes riders are looking for you for information about what's ahead, the type of terrain or whatever, and you might not know exactly yet. So I just think that getting that out there up front and just that morning say, hey, look, I've only ridden half of this. You guys know that.
But if you are going to put yourself in the situation where everybody's looking to you, do your homework. Even if you haven't ridden it, look at what kind of road it is. Make sure that it's pavement or not pavement, depending on what you're looking for. And trying to keep some of those surprises out of the out of the mix.
Second thing we said to do is to set the tone of the group by how you act. Like, the example was if you're hurrying at a stop, if you seem rushed yourself, the group can kind of seem rushed and frantic. If you hop off your bike and you're, just frantically moving around or whatever.
What happens in general is when you assume that role of being the ride leader for that day, everybody else tends to relax a bit and think, okay, they've got it handled. I don't need to think about all the details of the day. And realistically, most people are happy to be like, I don't want to think about the details of the day. I just want to zone out and ride the bike and end up where I want to end up. By you carrying yourself in a certain way, the people in the group are just going to look to you for everything. And if they look to you and they see that you're stressed out or you're frustrated or you're, like you say, moving around frantically, pull your helmet off and run in somewhere, that's going to naturally just raise the level of, we could call it stress or urgency or whatever it is in that group. So if you need to move the group along faster, it might be something
maybe you have to carry that demeanor.
Yeah, and you tell everybody, say, hey, guys, we kind of got to make some time here. We don't want to ride into the hotel or the campsite in the dark. If you see me running around at the fuel station trying to organize things, it's just because I'm trying to save time, just like, we've got to get moving. But if there is nothing going on like that, just staying calm and staying chill, people are going to pick up on that vibe, so to say, and they're going to be calm and they're going to be chill and you're going to have a nice relaxing time.
A third point we said to do was to keep awareness of the group's needs. Like, just because I don't have to go to the bathroom as the ride leader and just because we've been on the bikes for an hour or whatever now, doesn't mean somebody else doesn't have a deuce on deck, and some can't predict all the needs, but hydration, food, taking a break, not taking a break, all those things.
Certainly over the years, I've noticed that I'm lucky in a sense that I seem to have pretty good temperature regulation of my body. Like, it can get really hot and I'm okay with it. It can get really cold and I'm okay with it. I have to keep that in my mind and think that, like, not everybody's okay with 105 degrees. Just because my scheduled stop that I have, laid out is whatever, 1 hour from A to B. If it's extremely hot, hotter than you thought it was going to be, you have to kind of think about who's in your group. Is this something that they're okay with? Are they going to be able to handle that? And just because you feel okay in that kind of heat or in the rain, I've ridden in just absolutely driving rain. So have you, but not everybody feels good about that. Maybe if it starts pouring rain or, you get caught in a little squall or something, maybe it's better just to find a place to let that pass by until it's, not so bad. I could ride all day in it, but that doesn't mean anybody else could be happy to do it.
Yeah, and just because we are fine pushing on doesn't mean everybody is, and that's a hard thing often for dudes, especially a bunch of guys in a group. None of us wants to admit to each other that, I need a break or I'm tired or whatever. You have to keep in mind that they might be stretching the truth on whether they really do need a break or not. And so, yeah.
And as everybody's human, I've had people come running up to me and like, I've been wondering when you were going to stop, It's like, oh man.
I've been guilty of a few too many miles. Another one we said to do is to avoid letting things like politics and polarizing discussions come up during the ride, at lunch or whatever.
Sure.
I heard a story of one tour group. I'm going to leave names out of this, but there were apparently some guys on this tour from, shall we say, neighboring European countries, and they just weren't getting along for whatever reasons during this tour, and it all culminated in a fisticuffs fight on the final night of the tour where I believe all three of them were hospitalized. All right, that's the extreme. And we should all know that. I mean, you know your friends. It's like if you're going out with your regular Saturday morning group, you talk about whatever you want probably, but if it's a public group and you're seeing things like this that could get a little ugly, try and avoid politics.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is whether it's your group of friends or whether it's paying clients or whoever it is, the people that are there with you, they're looking to have that away time from whatever it is that they normally do. And if they want to have those conversations, they're welcome to have it. I would say just don't bring that to the group. If that's going to, evolve organically, somebody wants to prove that cats are better than dogs, then they can have that conversation all they want between themselves. Maybe they enjoy doing that. But what I wouldn't do if I've assumed that role is I wouldn't get everybody together and say, hey, everybody, I think cats are better than dogs. Those conversations have a way of popping up without having to inject them.
Well, and especially bullshit remarks like that about cats being better than dogs. What are you talking about? No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to.
See, exactly. See how that works?
The next thing we said to do is to make a plan and stick to it with a recognized group leader. And so that maybe we should have reminded that from the beginning. Obviously, if you're taking on the role as having chosen the route for your Saturday morning group or whatever it is, Tuesday night bike ride, if you're already designated the leader, that's great. But make sure that is stuck to.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where it's like you want to keep things as simple as possible, and you line out a route and you line out an experience for the day and some expectations and your mileages and whatnot, and then inevitably there's always something that comes up. There's been a tour where we got to a point where there was a semi-truck trailer fuel truck tipped over crossing all the pavement, and we weren't on off-road bikes, and it was like, okay, what's the move we make here? If we backtrack, that's long way out of the way. It's like, we gotta figure out a way to mitigate that problem and make a plan and then stick to it. And what you don't want to do is turn it into a voting of like, what does everybody think we should do? If you're the leader, first of all, plan to have some kind of ideas for a plan B a little bit. You can't come up with everything, but then make a plan and try and mitigate all those, moving parts and stick to that plan and get it done and get to where you're going.
All right. That was a few quick points on things to do. Now for things not to do. First one we said is, sounds so obvious, but don't let yourself or anyone else get hungry or dehydrated. And I'd say dehydrated first is kind of the easiest one to not notice is creeping up on you. I'm looking around at the other riders, making sure that they're drinking water and paying attention to their disposition. Are they seeming a little drab? And because you're out there, all that air and wind is rushing around you. If you're in a dry climate, you can be dehydrating real fast, and that can turn into problems.
Oh yeah, that can do it.
And the hunger thing, of course, too. Hungry now because you didn't have snacks or whatever with you, and then all of a sudden you have a couple of mechanical issues, and now you're 3 hours behind lunch or something like that. And just start the ride reminding everyone to bring stuff to snack on, or make sure you're stopping enough to get food or whatever it is.
There's very few places in the United States in the summertime that aren't hot, that are anywhere from Miami to California, on those states that border the ocean to the bottom. I mean, all those states are hot during the summer. And, if it's 100 degrees somewhere and you go have lunch, time and time and time again, I've told people, like, don't eat too much, get some water in you. And I see somebody just like go all in on a double bacon cheeseburger with a huge, like, loaded French fries and a giant Coke. And then they have a banana split when it's done. And it's like they're in this air conditioned room eating all this stuff, and they get outside and boom, their energy is zapped. They're fog-minded. It's hot. They don't feel good. And now they're on that bike. And it's like, I try to make sure that whatever group is in front of me, that I let them know, like, hey, you guys, that's not going to make you feel good. You're not going to feel good if you do that. So it's those kind of things. It's sometimes you got to be the guy to throw a wrench in somebody's fun, because it's going to overall affect them positively if they don't do something like that. And that's just one example, but yeah.
And the continuation of it being that riders, make mistakes if you're not feeling well, if you're distracted, if you're dehydrated or whatever. It's like, well, when
drowsy.
Mistakes happen, you're drowsy and tired, and all of a sudden you take a turn a little sloppy, or you're not paying attention or whatever, and then the whole riding day can change.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Don't outride the group just because you can.
Yeah.
Great. You're chosen as the ride leader, or you're the paid professional tour guide, or whatever it is. And you might have people that are not as skilled as you are. Doesn't mean you're out there to show off or show how far ahead of you can get or whatever. It's like, if they're counting on you as the ride leader, keeping the group together.
It's real easy to allow somebody in the group to pressure you into riding, maybe beyond what you think the group should be.
Well, that was the next point, is like, don't push yourself because someone else is. And like, so in every group I've ever ridden, obviously there's we screen and get riders together that are on the same page with similar backgrounds and everything, but there's always a variance in how fast people want to go. And that can vary from day to day, but to not allow yourself to be pushed beyond your comfort level.
Whether this is a group of your friends, I mean, if you're just out riding with your friends and you know them all, and, and then there's a little bit of, pushing and progression that goes on with that, for sure. But however, even if it's a group of friends, and again, you've adopted that role, essentially what you've done for the day is you've removed yourself from what you expect to happen in the day. You don't expect to have all the fun. You don't expect to be riding at your top level. You don't expect to be doing a lot of things. You should be expecting to make sure that everybody else is getting what they want.
Yeah.
And if your riding level is real high, you do nobody any good as a ride leader if you're just ripping ahead of them, all the time, and they're struggling to keep up. So you might just have to reel it in. And if that's boring to you for the day, well, you accepted the job as ride leader, so that's what you got to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
And to tie into that, it's you don't want to let people pressure you. There's, I make it very clear, I'm probably not the best rider on every tour that I do. There's a high probability that there's a better rider than me on every tour I've ever done. But I'm not there to prove what the upper limit of my capabilities are, or what the upper limit of the capabilities of the machine are. I'm simply doing a job from that platform. There's so many moving parts to that. We go on for days about the do's and don'ts, but in general, I think if you're going to adopt the role as the lead for that day, then you just need to realize that you are taking the responsibility of a leader, and that you should just set aside whatever your desires or whatever your ego is or whatever your skill set is. Yeah. And your focus should be outward.
Like to some extent, whether you're being paid as a professional guide or
doesn't
not,
matter.
Treat it kind of like it's a job. Yeah. You're still out there having fun, but keep in mind you got responsibilities around you too. So
that's it.
Well, just, a bunch of things that if you're riding, like we said, just for fun with the local club or being paid to guide tours or whatever it is, can be like the funnest job in the world when everything's going great and the scenery is incredible and the weather is fine. But when things start to go wrong, you can have some very long days out there.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if it involves hospitals or anything like that, just stuff that you want to avoid. So all of those things, I hope, are points that, help people keep in mind and have successful group rides, safe ones. Hope that helps. Thanks. Ask questions in the comments below and we'll answer more of your questions if you have them. So thanks for watching, everyone.